for having me here. I understand that these are difficult times and it takes a lot of strength to return to these beaches. The house is currently being monitored by our Navy, and I'm receiving updates on an hourly basis. We have an evacuation plan in place should the house approach during our time here. There are vehicles ready to transport us at a moment's notice. Now then, let us take a few steps over here. If you get a little closer, you can see the small wood chips that have been brought in by the tide. These chips are sharp and can easily puncture. They've washed up on several beaches in the area. I cannot overstate the importance of staying away. The sudden deaths of almost 200 beachgoers have been linked to these wood chips. Once they enter the bloodstream, the health of these victims deteriorates rapidly over the course of a few days. These chips are not made of normal wood and should be treated as carefully as you would treat a nest of fires. Luckily, only ones here on the beach have been temporarily neutralized by troops on the ground, so they're safe to touch. But we have not found a permanent solution, and tens of thousands will continue to arrive on our beaches. I recommend that everyone stay far away from the shore and sweep your porches daily to make sure no chips are made deeper. We are in the process of establishing cleanup teams who can properly dispose of any chips which have been found inland. But in the meantime, I suggest that you for having me here. I understand that these are difficult times and it takes a lot of strength to return to these beaches. The house is currently being monitored by the Navy, and I'm receiving updates on an hourly basis. We have an evacuation plan in place should the house approach during our time here. There are vehicles ready to transport us at a moment's notice. Now then, let us take a few steps over here. If you get a little closer, you can see the small wood chips that have been driving by. At the time, these chips are sharp and can easily puncture. They've washed up on several beaches in the area. I cannot overstate the importance of staying away. The sudden deaths of almost 200 beachgoers have been linked to these wood chips. Once they enter the bloodstream, the health of these victims deteriorates rapidly over the course of a few days. These chips are not made of normal wood and should be treated as carefully as you would treat a nest of ferrets. Luckily, only once they're on the beach have been temporarily neutralized by troops on the ground, so they're safe to touch. But we have not found a permanent solution, and tens of thousands will continue to arrive on our beaches. I recommend that everyone stay far away from the shore and sweep your purchase daily to make sure no chips are made it deeper. We are in the process of establishing cleanup teams who can properly dispose of any chips which have been found inland. But in the meantime, I suggest that whenever I walk along the beach with Nancy, I am reminded of those days when I was in the club. Well, a good Lord. We felt like one big happy family back then. Even though I was a young member, the man let me take a few shots. We had a new, most expensive house for the time. But his house was never bought. They took us with the users and some of the more seasoned members said they could have over 2 million goals. But I never saw it happen. We must go into the windows and if they hit the roof, it would be easier to see from the boat. All I know is that those windows will be glass. Because we see glass windows like the sky. I knew it very well from my time on the land. We never could figure out what those windows were made. Whenever we tried getting close to the house, could you step back? Picture a house taken on drive back. It sounds silly, but I don't know how to describe it. This how I remember. While the house never received any damage, we get from all but sheep. There were bound to be nasty accidents from time to time. I left because of an accident. It was terrible. That is the American people to stop shooting the house. I know it's tempting, but no good can come of it. There are plenty of angels in every state. Demonstrate. After all, the house has not received a scratch in over 50 years.
look at with the years then. Some of the more seasoned vendors said that for a whole rookie in their world. But I never saw it happen. We must be aimed at the window, since if they were to break, it would be easy to see from the boat. Well, all I know is that those windows were to be black. Because we see black windows like the travel. I knew it very well from my time on the land. We never could figure out what those windows were made. Whenever we tried getting close to the house, it would step back. Picture a house taking from that way. It sounds silly, but I don't know how to describe it. That's how I remember it. While the house never received any damage, we did from all the truth. There were bound to be nasty accidents from time to time. I left because of an accident. It was terrible. That is the American people.
Hello, we are not available now. Please leave your name and phone number after the beep. We will return your call.
And out to shoot some houses.
not available now. Please leave your name and phone number after the beep. We will return your call.
4 and 9 went out and shoot some houses.
Clubs keep going to the house and their members keep getting hurt. We're in the process of establishing floating barriers between the house and the coast. These barriers are made with specialized wood chips. No ship can pass through them. I have a nickname for them, which should put things in perspective. Killer wood chips.
Many people share your experience, Eli. Every testimony is consistent, but from what I've gathered, you knew about them before anyone else, so tell me, how did it all begin?
During an evening of fishing, a friend noticed a peculiar cluster of stars, unlike any of the surrounding celestial bodies. They were slowly growing in size, in unison. I'm known as the town's local astronomer, so she notified me of the phenomena that evening, and I immediately sailed out to her position. This was an event I couldn't ignore, but when I arrived at the coordinates she had given me, my friend was absent. Her boat was nowhere in sight.
Did this concern you at all?
I figured she went back to the town to get some rest. After all, it was almost midnight. After I positioned my telescope, I proceeded to examine the star cluster. At first glance, it did appear that they were growing together, but they were also passing by other stars. At this observation, I realized that they weren't growing at all. The stars were slowly falling toward me. I watched for several hours more until they entered the stratosphere, at which they dramatically increased in speed, hurling toward the sea.
Almost like comets. How fast would you say they were going?
I remember that in the span of a single blink, the stars had traveled from the top of clouds to just above the surface of the water, and it was just above the sea that they paused, hovering quietly over the waves. I could see that they weren't stars at all, for organic tendrils dangled from them. I was reminded of a starfish. The largest of the stars then addressed me. Eli, the Crescent King arrives in 3 cycles. You are his container.
A container? What did you take from that?
I wasn't sure at the time, but I did believe that 3 cycles corresponded to 3 days. Just as I made that connection, the starfish jettisoned back into the sky, causing tremendous waves, knocking me off my boat. The telescope had snagged onto my sleeve, and as it fell, it pulled me to the sea floor, where I saw hundreds of sunken vessels, some of which appeared to be ancient in origin. But most appalling was the boat I found myself slowly landing upon, for it was my missing friend's vessel, and her submerged body laid nearby. I broke loose from the telescope and swam back to shore, where I fell unconscious from the exhaustion.
Do you know of a William Rice or Bert Essex?
I do not.
Well, they also went missing in the vicinity. Do continue.
When I awoke, it appeared that an entire day had passed, and 2 cycles were left before the arrival of the Crescent King. I was afraid. These were beings that were unimaginably faster, larger, and more powerful than myself. Just after this realization, I was violently thrown across the shore and landed behind a large stone. I looked about and realized that I was no longer in my own body. I looked off to where I once stood and found my physical being standing motionless. It appeared that my consciousness was extracted. Invisibly, I hid behind the stone as I watched the translucent shape of a massive creature lightly nudging my figure with its massive limb. It was the Crescent King, but there was still some connection. Some quantum element was left undisturbed during the hijacking of my neural networks. I could hear the Crescent King's thoughts as it explored my brain, testing my mental capabilities, akin to an individual trying clothes. This ritual abruptly ended, and I was soon sent back into my own body. The momentum at which I was returned knocked me unconscious once more.
Did these periods of unconsciousness contain any further messages?
Not that I recall. When I awoke, another day had passed, and I had 1 cycle left before becoming a despicable container. So I planned to spoil my body, make myself unworthy of any habitation. I ate sand, drank salt water, tore at my skin, all to discourage any hideous progression of events. This only furthered my fatigue and eventually led me to falling unconscious one last time. The last thing I recalled was a massive entity falling from the sky and crashing into the sea. The Crescent King had arrived. I don't remember much else.
Well, a vacationing family found you and you were sent to the hospital. You're not the only one with these stories, so I've been sent to get these testimonies. But you're luckier than most. I'd say half of the others are catatonic. A few cases got into the headlines and threw the whole East Coast into a panic.
That's good.
Good, huh? That's a funny way of putting it. You really believe this stuff, don't you? You think you're a container of this Crescent King?
Large figures have appeared across the southeast. Every night, their breathing grows louder, and it's making everyone nervous. Yesterday, the university released X-ray images of them, revealing a metabolism resembling unstable nuclear reactors. Everyone in my neighborhood evacuated as soon as they heard the news. Except me. I want to see what happens. Tomorrow night the moon will be at its closest all year. I believe the moon's alignment with the crescent heads will release a sort of heat wave. You can already feel it in the air. A pulsating warmth from those crescent features. That's Chase, the wandering robot. She was created last year as a special effect for a summer blockbuster. At some point during production, the producers want Chase to exhibit free will for an improvised scene, so Chase's creators reluctantly enabled her artificial intelligence. That's when she left the studio and began her excursion south. Nobody knows where or when she'll stop. Her creators claim to have no power over her. Towns on her predicted trajectory celebrate her arrival, cheering Chase on as she passes by. I've been tasked by the Department of Defense to organize a video that'll convince Chase to return to the studio. The finished video will eventually be uploaded to her mind and played on an infinite loop. I know it won't work. She's already adding stars to our sky.
Every summer you've delighted millions of moviegoers. Your movies are critically acclaimed and the highest grossing of all time. The audience misses you. They want you back. We want you back. Please come home and let's finish the film together. We'll listen to you and meet your needs. If you'd like, we can even transfer you into a human body after production, so you can better fit among your friends. And don't worry, it's a fast process. Once it starts, you'll wake up in your new body in less than 24 hours, just in time for the sunrise. Come back home, Chase. Everyone misses you.
Most of your captors proceed to our job.